Joining us right now is Republican Congressman Drew Ferguson and Democratic Congressman Tom Suozzi. Good to see you both. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Congressman
Good
Ferguson,
morning,
let me kick it off with you. What do you make of this new bill? Will you vote yes for it?
Listen, I am solidly behind this bill. I think it's great for middle America. I think it's actually great for every American. And most importantly, it is a jobs bill that is going to put millions of Americans back to work and make America the most competitive place in the world to do business.
All right, Congressman Tom Suozzi, what do you think?
I'm solidly against it, and Drew knows we have Americans in New York, too, and this is devastating for New York and New Jersey and other states that are huge net donors to the federal government. The elimination of the state and local tax deduction would wipe out people in my district. Over 250,000 people in my district use the state and local tax deduction. It's patently unfair.
Well, let me ask you this, Congressman, because I'm with you. I understand. I'm a New Yorker. I understand that a lot of New Yorkers are going to see higher taxes. When you really have to look at the entirety of the plan, but if you're just looking at the elimination of deduction, I understand what you're saying. Is this over time going to pressure your governor, your mayors, into basically saying we can't hide behind this deduction anymore? Over time, will there be pressure on them to lower taxes and pull in their spending? Maybe that's the problem.
There's pressure now to lower taxes in New York State. I fought for a property tax cap in New York State, and Governor Cuomo and the legislature put in place a property tax cap. Governor Cuomo has worked to reduce taxes in New York State. The reality is this deduction has been in place for 100 years. It is patently unfair to take it away. The idea that you pay taxes to your state and local governments, and then you get taxed on that same money a double time. It's completely unfair to New York. Today's election day in New York. If New Yorkers don't like what the Republicans are proposing in this federal tax bill, they should vote Democratic.
What, vote for Mayor de Blasio, you mean?
They should vote Democratic.
He's such a tax cutter.
They should send a clear message to the federal government, to the GOP, that they're unhappy with this unfair. Listen, I'm not the only one saying this. Peter King is saying the same thing. Lee Zeldin is saying the same thing.
Right.
Democrats and Republicans throughout New York State and New Jersey and elsewhere recognize this is unfair to the people of New York. We send $40 billion more a year to the federal government than we get back.
Yeah, 48 billion, actually, you're right.
And we need our friends like Drew Ferguson, who I understand this is good for his state, to recognize that this is very bad for our taxpayers, very bad for our residents.
Well, that's just one part of the plan, right, Congressman Ferguson? Because the other part of the plan is this stealth tax rate, is what the Wall Street Journal is calling it, at 45.6%. How do you call yourself a Republican if, in fact, you're raising taxes on a portion of the country, sir?
Well, first of all, there is no so-called stealth rate. The elimination of the bottom 12%, what we call a bubble rate, is something that's consistent even with Reagan's plans.
But it is 45.6%.
Listen, Maria, I am all about driving down tax rates for every single person. I would be supportive of lowering that top tax bracket at 30.5%. I think it's good for the economy. I think it's good for America. But we have to remember the primary thing we're trying to do here is provide real relief to the middle class, the folks that are out there working every single day, the folks that are in every state in New York and Georgia that are out there, middle America, that will see great benefit from this. And the other thing that we have to remember is that we have got to create a tax code that allows our job creators to put Americans back to work and quit transferring wealth across our shores to other nations. We can do that, and we need to use that momentum to address mandatory spending in the future.
This is a wealth transfer. It's wealth redistribution and income redistribution to people who already don't pay any income taxes. And the top rate for people who earn the most money is 45.6%, and it's 49.4% if you include the Obamacare surcharge, which you, as Republicans, didn't get rid of because you couldn't pass health care reform.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm still a little bit raw with the rest of America on the Senate dropping the ball and not passing health care reform.
Well, I'm not trying to change the subject. I'm trying to say that you're raising taxes.
Listen, I agree with you. We need to drive the rates as low as we possibly can.
I'm just saying that you're raising taxes on high-income Americans, and so you're setting a new baseline for Democrats when they eventually take over the House.
Yeah.
So they're only going to go up even further than that.
Listen, the Joint Commission on Tax yesterday in the hearing said every American gets a tax break.
That's not true, though.
And I think that's the thing.
But that's not true.
Yeah, you know, I think
we're looking at a 50% rate just from the 45.6% stealth rate and the elimination of the deduction. We're looking at a 50% rate. I mean, come on. It's not a tax cut for some people.
Well, listen, I agree
get the fact
that
it has
we
to be
need to
paid
go
for. I get that.
go lower on every rate.
Look, I understand it has to be paid for. The money has to come from somewhere. But let's not say that everybody gets a tax cut if it's not true.
I'll tell you who's not getting a tax cut are the people in my district who are having this elimination of the state and local tax deduction. And I'll tell you who is getting a tax deduction. The way they've changed the pass-through rate, that everybody gets this 25% rate, regardless of how much money you make, is unfathomable. How can it be that you can make $1 million or $5 million or $10 million or $20 million and you're paying 25%? That doesn't make any sense to average Americans.
Listen, Tom, that is, you know, you've got to recognize it in the small business code. There are safety and guardrails to separate wage income from profit, and wages will be taxed at the appropriate income level. So I'm confident that we'll have the guardrails in there to make sure that there aren't abuses of that provision.
Congressman, I know Swazi, I know that you're worried about people getting a tax increase, but if your party were in control, it would be even higher taxes. So I don't know that I'm on your team either, because give me a break. I mean, all of a sudden, the Democrats are worried about the deficit. You doubled the debt under President Obama, $10 to $20 trillion, and now you're complaining about high tax rates.
Well, you know, it's pretty interesting that you bring that up, Maria, because the Republican Party has been talking about deficits for so long, is increasing the deficit in this country by $1.5 trillion as part of this tax plan, which makes no sense whatsoever. So we've got a lot of unfair things in this tax reform proposal. Number one, you're eliminating the state and local tax deduction, which will devastate the people of New York. Number two, you're increasing the deficit by $1.5 trillion. And number three, this pass-through rate of 25% doesn't make any sense at all. My friend Drew Ferguson, who's on the show with us here today, and I have both pledged to be civil. We're freshman Congress members.
Well, we're all civil. We're just trying to get to the bottom of it, because we know the story better than people think.
Maria, I feel
thank you.
Look, listen, Tom makes a good point that we need to have a civil conversation here. But look, he's absolutely wrong on the pass-through rates. And keep in mind, just because we have to write the plan to some arcane Senate rules to meet the requirements parliamentarian, that rule does not account for dynamic scoring and the growth that we know that will occur. And listen, we know that communities that get their tax rates right, they get the regulatory environment right, they see job growth. Ultimately, they see more revenue coming into the local coffers, and they're able to lower taxes. We did that in my hometown, and I know that we can do this in the nation.
Well, you're only raising...
we have to grow this economy, and that is the thing.
This stealth rate, what does it raise? $60 billion or so. I mean, maybe you should take it away from some of the other credits that you have in there, rather than raising taxes on the people who pay the taxes. Anyway, we're going to keep talking about this. We recognize the issues. Congressman, great to see you both. Thank you so much for weighing in this morning.